rock and roll will always be true. We're all over the radio. We're hand in hand in stereo. All over the radio with you.
Greetings. This is Matt Dietz, and this is None of My Business. Thank you for listening. You can find me at www.dietzsagency.com. You can find me on Twitter at Dietz Agency. You can even send me an email at mdietz@farmersagent.com. Today, my guest is Brett Labit. Brett is returning to the show, and he had an exciting year with his business, Local Impact Zone, or Liz, and he tells the story of kind of a bumpy ride over the last year. At his peak, Brett had 17 employees. At its valley, it was him and his son. I can say I honestly haven't seen anybody want a business to succeed, and I haven't seen anybody want their vision to come to fruition as much as I have with Brett. I believe he just willed it to happen. And some good things happen at some times that he needed it to happen. So we talk about that as well. The other universal truth that I took from this interview is that, Brett owned everything that happened with the company. And that's something that business owners have to learn how to do. I know I had to learn how to do it. And it's empowering, and it's important to learn how to say, you know what? This mistake was my fault. It wasn't my employee's fault. I'm the one that trained my employee. And so it's a very important thing for all business owners to really understand, is that every decision that comes out of your business rests on your shoulders. Whether you actually made it or not, or whether you actually said it or not, it falls on you. And that was something that I took from this interview as well. So I want to thank Brett so much for sitting down with me again. We're all excited to see what happens with Liz moving forward, and sit down and enjoy. Well, I'm here today again with Brett Labit. Hi, Brett.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You are my first repeat guest.
All right. That's exciting.
You were my first guest, and you are now my first repeat guest. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm honored.
It means that you're still in business.
Yes, we are.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Great.
You had an interesting year with Liz.
It was, that might be an understatement, add a few other adjectives, and yes, you're right.
Yes, I like to use the word exciting.
Yes.
Because it's all encompassing, right? It can be a really bad year, a really good year. So why don't we start with just giving a quick synopsis on what your vision of Liz is? Let's just start basic, and then we'll dig into what happened.
Sure. Vision-wise, it's always been global. We've always looked to create a social marketplace that would help business through transition, basically. So moving small to medium business from the survival mode to stability onto the rewards of success and then significance. So we built a free social marketplace specifically for that. And then we monetize it through our partnerships. And so the vision is to establish that in every community globally. And of course, you've got to start at square one. And we started right here in Boise, Idaho. And now Liz is in other markets. And we continue to drive that vision forward.
Okay. Now, you've used the term, kind of the cornerstone is collaborative community.
Right.
Why don't you touch on that real quick, just so everyone knows?
Yeah. Collaborative community is really a sustainable ecosystem for community. And I believe that collaboration is the key. So the 5 parts of collaborative community, real quickly, are to aid the aching parts. So we're only as good as our weakest link. So if we have aching parts in a community, that's the benchmark for the community.
And every community has aching parts.
They do.
Yes.
They do. And if we're not mindful of shoring those up, we've got issues. It's kind of like when the hand is sick on the body, the whole body is sick.
Right.
You've got to tend to the hand. So first part of collaborative community is help the aching parts. The second part is a collaborative member. So someone that is engaged and aware and conscious of supporting the community, whether they are a consumer or they're a business. Everyone has a responsibility, so that's a collaborative member. And then collaborative partners. They're partners that are moving forward, that are starting to have resource that say, hey, it's not just about me making it, it's about helping others make it. And so they're in the giving back phase of their life. And then a collaborative nonprofit or cause-driven organization. Right now, we've got some wonderful nonprofits out there. Many of them need to enter into that phase of the work that they do, where they realize that it's not just about taking money from donors, it's not just about getting grants, it's about collaborating with businesses and individuals that are giving so that they continue to have the resources to give. So that's a collaborative partner, step 4 in the nonprofit world. And then step 5 is a collaborative government, getting the city leaders to work with us to create this entrepreneurial ecosystem that puts back into the system.
Very good. Now, you launched Liz. It's probably been give me the date when you originally launched it.
October. It was October of 2011 at 3:45 p.m.
Okay, give or take.
Right, give or take a couple seconds.
Right.
That's when I had the idea, and then in 2012, the first beta version. I really spent a couple years just trying to figure the model out.
Sure.
So,
now you built up quite a head of steam over the last few years. I got involved with Liz. I mean, it was probably a year and a half ago. Started going to a lot of your events, your power breakfasts, and you were living your vision. There were people there you were giving back to the community. You had a lot of stuff going on. You built a team. You had office space. You had the whole 9 yards, and things were going what seemed like in the right direction for you. You hit some roadblocks along the way. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about some of those roadblocks you hit over the past year?
Sure. Well, there's a long list, so
Yes.
this could turn into a pretty long
That's all right.
recording.
I got time.
Yeah, great. One of the things I'll tell you just in general that happened is a lot of times you get in business and you jump on a train, and that's the vision, and you say, okay, this is where we're going. And we've been taught that there's this concept that you never quit. And I believe in that to a degree, but there is a time where you quit. In my case, it wasn't quit the vision, it was quit the train that we were on. We had designed a train, we got on the train, we started running, and yes, we did have momentum and we did go somewhere, but when I looked up, it wasn't really the direction I wanted to go.
You're on the wrong track.
Right, on the wrong track. And
Yeah.
so I really just constructed a new train, put it on a new track, and we made that jump. And in that jump, there's casualty.
Yeah.
And so we took a dip.
Have you read the book, The Dip, by Seth Godin?
No, but my good friend and mentor Troy McLean has been talking to me about that. So he's taught me the concepts, and
Yeah.
I am going to jump in and read that book. It's actually on the list.
It's I read it last year. Someone gave it to me, and it's about knowing when to quit,
Right.
and when to persevere. A lot of people hit the big dip, and it's right before they have enormous growth.
Right.
Some people hit the dip and can't get out of it, and they have to know when to change tracks, which
Right.
is what you've done. So,
Right.
So you had a team of people that were working with you at the height last year. How many people did you have?
We had a total of about 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at your dip, how many did you have?
About -2.
-2. Yeah, it was you and
Yeah, my son,
Brad, right?
Brad is my loyal. Not that the others weren't loyal and faithful. I had some amazing people on staff, but the problem with transition sometimes is that it creates casualty, as I had spoke about, and so we did create casualty.
So what do you account that to from going from 17 to 0? What happened? Was there not enough buy-in from the employees on the vision that you were trying to achieve? Was it like what happened there? Because this happens to many businesses. You know, you've got the head of the company that has the vision and is willing to do whatever they need to do to take it. But you bring on employees, and for some reason, it's not as collaborative. They don't do the things you want them to do as fast or as good as you think you can do it. I've gone through it myself, where I had employees in a revolving door for a 3 or 4 year period, and I could not get them to do the things I wanted them to do as well as I wanted them to do. And it's the toughest part of the job for me and for probably most business owners. So I'm curious about what your experience was like, through that time with the employees specifically.
Right. So great question. Probably one of my favorites, and I'm excited to be able to talk about this. Troy and I talk a lot here about the concept that everything rises and falls on leadership. So as I look back, I did go through a phase of regret, anger, denial, whatever the case may be. I went through a range of different emotions and perspectives. As I reflect back today, I really had fantastic people for the most part. Just bad leadership, to be honest and transparent. It was bad leadership. It's not that I'm a bad leader. It was an act. It was an isolated act, a unit of time that I just wasn't leading properly, which leads to a concept that I've really been working on and developing, that a lot of times in a company, you need the leader, someone that's responsible for revenue, the whole picture, right? The very top of leadership. They carry a different set of stresses and a different set of concerns than anyone would in middle management. Now, and then you have your workforce. Well, I was the direct guy that carried all those stresses and in direct communication with the team. And so oftentimes my stresses would transfer. And so what I think a company needs to be successful, that's in that 10 to 15 to 20 employee range and bigger, is they have to have someone in between. And I didn't really have someone in between.
Okay.
Someone that could buffer the stresses
Yeah.
and still deliver the urgency to the team without killing them, crushing them. And what I probably did is just crush a lot of people.
It's true. There is a point in time where you have to infuse kind of a middle management, because as your business grows. I mean, I have had 4 employees at my peak. All right, I'm a small business, but I had found that I was taking a lot more time managing employees instead of being the face of the business in marketing and sales, which is what I want to be doing.
Right.
So I hired somebody as a what's the title I chose? She was my number 2.
Yeah.
So she's responsible for, hiring and training and doing reviews and things like that. So, and that opened me up to do a lot more of what I need to do to run the business, you know? So, yeah, finding a time to infuse that middle management is crucial for any business that's growing.
Sure.
And so,
And you might think at the time, you go, well, that's an investment. And it just seems that every time we shy away from investment, it costs more. There's a risk in not taking risk. And looking back, what I should have done was what you did, which is put someone in between myself and the team that could really understand where I was wanting to go and then deliver in a palatable way to the team that directive.
Yeah. And it's funny, it just goes to show that running a business, there's no roadmap. Like it hit me just one day. I was like, well, maybe I should bring someone on. But it wasn't like I was following, no, I'm on step 47 of running my business, which is find, somebody in local or in middle management. It's just something that, that's why I want to have these conversations and share these stories with people, so that maybe we can trigger something in a business that's going through something similar, and maybe they'll wake up and go, hey, that's not a bad idea, and maybe they promote someone or they bring someone else in. So,
well, I think what you're doing here with the podcast is very, very valuable. It really is it's a audio mastermind. This allows business owners to tune in and individuals to tune in and go, okay, I may not have a manual on success for business, but if I'll pull all these pieces together and learn from people that have made these mistakes, there's no reason to repeat all the mistakes that we all make.
No.
Why not start on top of our shoulders and build something bigger and see further?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's the whole core of why I want to be doing this.
Right.
So what was it like when you went from 17 to 0? What were you feeling?
Well, we probably can't do that on live feed. Right?
Cut that.
We'll have to edit. I felt a range of different things. Chaos, which is good. Chaos leads to, if you're attentive, that chaos can lead to really sitting down and going back through your strategic plan. And so I was in chaos. I had some anger and some doubt, not doubt in the vision. So back to my thought about when you quit, that never occurred to me. It's never occurred to me to quit this vision. Just the doubt led me to question a lot of the tracks that were laid and my leadership and different things. And so I had to go back to the drawing board and again, one more time, reinvent myself and come up stronger. I tell business owners all the time, I had someone I was consulting the other night, and they go, I have this business idea. I go, great, I want you to break it. And they go, well, what do you mean? Isn't the goal to grow it and build it? And I said, no, I want you to break it. I want you to break it so many times it gets harder and harder to break and easier to rebuild. And when you feel like you have shortened that window, it's time to launch it.
Yeah.
And they resonated with that concept, and hopefully they'll follow through. And that's what I did. Is I've broken this a few times,
You may break it again. You may break it again.
Probably. Yeah. Probably.
So I want to talk a little bit about the model of Liz, which is really give first. It's all about giving. That's a hard concept to teach people, I think.
Sure.
I think a lot of people, at least, and business owners, I'm in business to grow my business and provide for my family. So if I'm in a room full of people, it's natural for a business owner to scan the room and say, all right, what can I get out of this? Who can I sell? I sell insurance. Who can I sell insurance to?
Right.
It took me a long time to scan the room and be able to say, who can I help here? And that's something that you're trying to really change. It's a mentality, I think.
It is.
And it's hard. It's very hard. How do you get people to change from what's in it for me to how can I help you? That's the bridge you're trying to gap. And,
right.
And a lot of people don't get it. They have to learn it. I think it hurts their business moving forward. I think it should be one of the first things business owners should learn.
Right.
But there's also a sense of urgency when you're starting a business. You got to make money. Like I had to sell policies.
Right.
So when I'm in a room, I'm going to ask you when I first started, who's your insurance with? I have to,
right.
to pay my bills and things like that. So there are like seasons of owning a business. But I learned a few years in that giving is really powerful, and it became a cornerstone of my business. So how do you teach a community what you're trying to teach them?
Well, I love this question. I think I have to retract one of my earlier statements. This is probably my favorite question.
Okay. I got a few more. Maybe we can keep bumping.
We may keep bumping them. But so first of all, we believe, Troy McClain and I talk about this all the time, is that your network will lead to your net worth. So call that sales, call it whatever, revenue, whatever you want to call it, but your network will lead to your net worth. So how do you build a large, trusted and trusting, it's got to go both ways, network? And you don't do it by pushing products and services on people, right? What I like to call it is social influence. The objective is to build social influence so that when you speak, people listen, right? It's the old E.F. Hutton concept.
Yeah.
When you speak, people listen. And how do you do that? Well, there are concepts out there, truths that we can bank on, right? People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Well, how do you portray that to people in a network?
Right.
Well, you've got to make it all about them. What we talk about a lot here when Troy and I visit is everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is influence, so that's where the social influence part comes in. And then influence is all about connecting, and connecting is 100% about the other person. There's supporting evidence that says that you're absolutely right, that this concept of, well, yeah, I need to make money and I have personal needs and I have self-interest, we get that. It exists. It's there. But it's there. It's time to put that on the shelf. The supporting evidence is, statistically, in America at least, we have 1% of our country considered wealthy. We have 3% or 4% that can fund their own retirement at age 65. We have 3 to 4% that are still working at age 65. And then we have a whole slew of people that just simply can't fund their own retirement. So we know that common thinking isn't working. And what do you see most common? You see people out there pushing their business cards, pushing their products and services. So what I started to look at and really started to formulate in my mind is, what is the key to social influence, or what is the key to what I call the law of reciprocity?
Okay.
And the key is the 4 G's in giving. It's give first, give consistently, give big, and give back. Okay? There are different phases that we go through. And anybody, anywhere, at any time can do the give first part. That's where people are misled and misunderstand. It doesn't mean you have to have resource to be able to give. We all have an inherent resource, which is encouragement, smile, support, right? Anyone can connect anyone at any time.
Sure.
Right? So at least start there. And then as you grow, as you start to manifest the things into your life that you've declared intention on, you want to grow in the areas of health, wealth, and happiness. As you start to manifest those, you're able to give consistently. And then you're able to give big, and then you're able to give back, right? Now, when you do that, you're going to build social influence. If you build social influence, I promise, I've proven this in my own life. Someone told me the other day, well, you can't do business without asking for the sale. And I go, well, that's the old mentality.
Yeah.
But common thinking, if you realize and you know the statistics, hasn't really led to success in people's lives the way they would hope. What I'm asking people I'm asking them for a paradigm shift. Get away from common thinking and realize that the key is that if you will go out and serve and just help people with what they want, you won't have to ask. They'll know. If they know you sell insurance and you're the one at the forefront of their mind because you've been giving and serving, you inspire, uplift, and serve, you're honest, moral, and ethical, you're doing all those things, they're going to trust you and they'll come to you and say, what can I do to help you?
So let me ask you this. I agree with everything that you just said, and I know that it works. How do you get people to buy in on that?
It's repetition. You teach it over and over and over, and you model it, and you do it over and over and
How
over
are you
going
to do it?
How am I going to do it?
Yeah, specifically.
Specifically,
Yeah.
logistically?
Yeah.
Through trainings, through what we'll talk about probably here in the near future is through a merger between two different companies that have the systems and the training to repeat that knowledge over and over, to build that like-minded community where people inside of a collaborative community start to think the same way. It's one band, one sound, but everybody playing a different instrument.
It's like jazz.
Right, it's like jazz. When
Yeah.
you hear good jazz, you don't really hear the instruments specifically, you hear a sound, right? In a like-minded community, that's what you get from that like-minded community, is everybody starts moving to the same song. And so we have to do it through training events, through mastermind groups, through technology, through things like this. This podcast is extremely valuable. What people now need to do is have a willingness to learn and then a willingness to change. Take this information and turn it into transformation. I tell people all the time, I go, so you're pulling in information, that's wonderful. If it doesn't lead to transformation, it's nothing more than storage.
Yeah, there has to be action that takes
Right.
place.
Right.
And honestly, with I think with what you're trying to teach, while it sounds like it's challenging to do, I think once it happens one time for somebody, it changes them. I mean, that's the way it worked for me, where I gave somebody something because I was starting to believe in the model. It took me some time, but once I gave somebody and it came back to me immediately, there was a switch that went on. I was like, oh my gosh, really? That's all? That was all I had to do? And I gave them a referral. I was like, who do you need to meet? Oh, you need to meet somebody in this industry? I got someone. I'm going to have them call you. And that's what I did. And then by the end of the conversation, they were giving business to me.
Yeah.
And it was a huge moment in my career. This tiny little moment that happened years ago, but it something crossed over in me in that moment. And if everybody could just have that happen once,
Right.
just once, I mean, that's it. I think it could change. But it's what did I say? We talked about a quote earlier from Men in Black. I told you this quote.
Yes.
Where it's you remember where Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith are sitting, and it's right before Will Smith goes into the Men in Black and commits, and he says, why don't you just tell people that aliens exist? And Tommy Lee Jones says, Will Smith goes, well, people are smart. Why don't you just tell them that aliens are here? And Tommy Lee Jones goes, a person is smart. People are stupid. And so changing the mentality of an entire group is so much different than having it done in like a one-on-one training or something like that. And that's the hill I think you're trying to climb.
Absolutely.
Is you're trying to break this model of ask for the sale, what's in it for me, instead of ask for how I can help you. And that's your challenge. And if you achieve it, I believe that you will change the community and the communities that buy into that moving forward.
One of the core principles of what we teach is, who do you listen to, right? When you look at statistics, what we have evidence of is people listening to other people that aren't where they want to be.
Yeah.
Right? When you start to get around a Matt Dietz or a Troy McClain or some of the other a David Cohen or some of the people that I associate with that I consider part of my inner circle or mastermind, as you start to get around those people and they've accomplished some things in life and you start to listen, it's natural, if you're not there, to buck everything that they say. Why? Because that's not what I think. Mm-hmm. But we get where we get by how we think. And it's a simple formula. You look at where you want to be, you look at where you are today, and if you're disconnected, thinking is the cause of that disconnect. So you have to change the thinking. Well, how do you do that? One of the core principles to do that is associating with like-minded people that are where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, that's where the mastermind group comes in, right?
Right.
And I think I read a quote recently where it's like, you do not want to be the smartest person in a mastermind group, right?
Absolutely right.
So,
Usually I'm not. Yeah.
So you can be any of them, Brett.
Right, right.
Yeah. So, that's a great way. I'm in a mastermind group through Liz. I've gotten some great value from it. And even if the last time we met, it was a small group, there were 3 of us. But I walked out of there just rejuvenated and excited because we hit on some topics that were important and meaningful. And even in a small group, it can make a difference. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I look forward to continuing that moving forward. Well, let's talk about what should we talk about next? I was gonna ask you about having Liz as, and you've probably answered this question, but if you want to go in a little bit more, Liz kind of started out from the outside looking in as another, marketing group,
Yeah.
leads group. It's and some people could say, well, it's like going to a chamber event, or it's like going to a leads group, or a like a BNI. What are you doing differently than those groups? Why should people look at Liz instead of those groups? Those groups work for certain people, but I think what
Sure.
you're trying to do is different. So why should people choose, Liz, or add Liz to, their quiver?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like the AdLiz philosophy. I love to collaborate with all the groups that you mentioned, friends with many of them.
Yeah.
I believe in them, and I know you do as well. And I think they all have relevancy. And so what we really wanted to accomplish in Liz is we had moved into a digital world, right? And most businesses were having trouble transitioning into the new world. It's getting tougher. So you have social media, you have internet marketing, and it's wonderful. But the challenge with wonderful is everybody jumps on board, and then it becomes noisy and cluttered. When we create a like-minded collaborative community, we create a desire inside that community for members to support members. We create digital branding that they can't do on their own. They can't afford to do on their own. It's expensive,
Right.
especially today. So early on in social media, you could jump in and put in a post, and the whole world saw it, and they were like, yeah, jump on board,
Yeah.
and voila, you're moving.
It was awesome.
No one's seeing your stuff now, right?
No, I
Because
know.
there's too much traffic.
Or you have to pay.
Right, and to be seen, you're going to either hire an expert or be an expert.
Right.
So how do you do that for the average small to medium business, 0 to 20 employees, that doesn't have a marketing budget of $5,000 or $10,000 a month, which there is a place for those, right?
Sure.
But for the majority of companies in the U.S., there are 23, 24 million companies in the U.S. that are solopreneur. That's 80% of the businesses in the U.S.
Yep.
And they won't have that type of budget. So you have to do that through collaborative community, and that's what Liz is. Liz is a complete system that's not just networking, that's not just leads, that's not just a technology platform. It's the entire thing put into one community. And everyone else can participate at the chamber, BNI, all of them can participate. Many of them do.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? And what we do is just foster branding and like-mindedness and support and collaboration inside of that one environment. I literally am just removing the word competition from my vocabulary. I can have my biggest, fiercest competitor right here in the room with me today, and I would endorse them if they're worthy of being endorsed. But I would definitely collaborate and definitely support because I truly believe that if I'm losing out, it's because I'm not my highest and best. It's not about someone taking something from me.
Sure.
It's just about being my highest and best. And I think Liz does a good job of helping people rise to their highest and best version.
That's great. I came across when I started. I've been doing this podcast for almost a year, and then there's a little tiny podcasting community here in town that
Sure.
I kind of have been become a part of. Like Brandon Wright has his radio show,
Right.
And
Stellar show.
Yeah,
Great
he puts
show.
that out as a podcast, and then I think Ben Davidson does an Idaho Leaders podcast as well. He lives over in Pocatello, and I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. This guy's doing the same thing I'm doing. And I was like, well, that's my idea. I mean,
Right,
initially I had this
right.
trigger reaction, and then after a short period of time, I embraced it, and I was like, wait a minute, we're all trying to help each other out here. So
Right.
now the three of us work together in sharing each other's shows, and we even have some of the same guests. But I'll promote their shows, they promote my shows, and it's been kind of a neat, it's been a neat experience that way too.
And I've been watching that. I watch you and Brandon collaborate, and for each of you to get on each other's show and
Yeah.
then to promote each other's show. What I think that does ultimately is I think it does two important things. Number one, the entire brand of what you're doing grows.
Right.
Because it's the industry, it's the podcast or the radio show industry continues to grow and enhance. The second thing it does is it takes you from the giving part of life where it looks like you really want to be a giver and you're kind of a giver, but yet you're worried about people taking.
Yeah.
And it says, no, I'm 100% a giver. So when I plant a beet, I will grow a beet. What I think a lot of people do in the area of giving is they're planting a beet wrapped with an onion skin, and they think they're going to harvest onions. And so when they see beets come up, they're confused, right? This moves you, when you go into collaboration and away from competition, it moves you into truly being a 100% giver through and through,
Yeah.
and then you reap the rewards of that.
Yeah, it's been great. Let's go back to your story a little bit. I'm going to take you to rock bottom, and then we're going to we've already got to rock bottom, so let's talk
Sure.
about the rise. So it was over the summer that you and I sat down and met. I wanted to hear about what was going on with your business. I brought some ideas to you about Liz University, and we sat down, and you're like, Matt, some things are coming, like next week. You didn't tell me because
Right.
it might have not been signed, sealed, and delivered yet, but
Right.
I could tell that something was happening, and I could tell the timing probably couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you had office space, and it was just you. I mean, you guys were really running on the skin of your teeth, so to speak.
Oh, man.
You drank a lot of coffee up at the village, right? So what happened?
Well, this story goes back a little ways. If you recall, in 2004, I believe it was, Troy McClain was on the first season of The Apprentice with Donald Trump.
Yep.
I'm not a big TV guy. In fact, I haven't owned a TV for probably 10 years, right? I just don't. I'm not against it for other people, but
Not even to watch your Steelers?
that's why I miss them most of the time. Is I'll have to tune in at a sports bar or something to watch them
Yeah.
play. But I watched Troy McClain on The Apprentice, and my father and we would sit down, and that was the one time where it's like no interruptions. We're watching Troy, and my dad and I would be glued to the TV, and we would watch this show.
Yeah.
And what happened is I really fell in love with who Troy was. I loved how that he was humble. I loved that he was innovative and creative. I started seeing this very unique creativity where he would win the tasks because he really was looking beyond the obvious. And to this day, Troy teaches, one of the primary messages he teaches is looking beyond the obvious. So at the time, I just really liked the guy, and I sent him an email. And this is during the show.
Yeah.
Now, he's getting picked up all over the world by the media. He's a media darling. And so everybody is CNN, Dateline, everybody is pulling on Troy McClain.
Because he went top 3, right?
Yeah, he was in the top 4. I think he was
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I still am probably going to write a letter and say he should have been number 1. But at the time, I get a phone call. I remember walking outside of my place and talking to Troy McClain on the phone.
Awesome.
And I knew he had to just be the busiest guy on the planet at the time. And I really just kept, my level of respect and admiration just kept going up. So anyway, fast forward several years, I go to a charity event, and Troy is the MC, and I'm seeing what I would call a hero of mine or a mentor of mine. I'm seeing him up on stage serving a charity and going, yep, he's still doing what he does. Well, a lot of people don't know his history from The Apprentice on. This guy is a phenomenal entrepreneur, and so, and we'll talk about that another time. But I want to lead up to what's happening today. I've kind of followed, and when I got the opportunity through an individual that introduced me to Troy, and Troy and I sat down, we really just clicked in this like-mindedness of helping people, serving people, and creating prosperity in the areas of health, wealth, and happiness. And so we clicked personally, and then when we looked at each other's business model, we really just saw a great marriage there to propel exponentially both companies.
Now, this last phase that you're just talking about seemed to happen pretty quick. Like,
did.
you guys sat down, laid out your business models, and it was like, we have to figure something out. Like,
Right.
we got to do this. Like, what was your timeline from the sit down to like formally, merging?
Well, still details to go through, but honestly, it was less than 30 days to realize, okay, this is what we need to do. But figuring out the logistics were tough because you take two different models, two different clubs, and you go, well, how do you put these together? And Troy and I are really good at going, we're going there. Well, how? We don't know. We only know why.
Yeah.
We're just going there. There were other people that had influence and input that helped us put the how together. And we eventually got to that point. So it really was 30 to 90 days total. But at 30, we pretty much knew.
Okay. So how long before you have kind of do you have the how figured out yet?
We have a lot of it figured out.
Give me a percentage.
So I'd say we're at, I'd say we're 80% in knowing what it is, but then you got to back up now that you know what it is and start at 0% and go, okay, now we have to document, define,
You have to build it.
and build all of that. And so that is in the beginning phases. So we're close to completion on the how. Or the outline of the how, and now we got to go through and build it. Launch time on all of it, 90 days. I mean, we are moving, as Troy and I both do, we're moving aggressively to create momentum because we believe that momentum is the key to lifting people up. Someone who doesn't have momentum is going to struggle to lift someone up.
Yes.
They're going to be pulled down faster than they're going to pull them up.
Can you give us an idea on what you guys are going to try to accomplish together?
Yeah, well, the bottom line of what we want to accomplish is just a better world for life and business, right? So the mission of Liz is and always has been to provide a dynamic social marketplace for individuals to progress in life and business. Well, when I got around Troy and I saw his vision and mission and what he wanted to do, it was the same. It's let's just help life and business do better. And so through the online education system that Troy has, and that like-minded network, and through the business network that Liz has, we put those two together, and they're just a powerful combination that we can deliver to the world. And currently, Troy's company exists in 88 countries, so we've got a great. So Liz, where a lot of people thought Liz was falling down or falling apart, we were just moving over to a different track that gives us about a 3-year quantum leap.
Wow. So how did that feel? Like you were all the way down here, and then you have the meeting, and now we're being filmed in a studio, and you've got people to help you achieve your vision, which you didn't have 4 months ago.
Right.
And what was that like for you?
Well, I don't want this to sound arrogant, but I knew that I would be here, and I think that's one of the keys. When people say, "Well, is Liz going to make it?" I go, "Are you kidding me?" And they would say, "Well, what would make you quit?" I go, "Death. Death would make me quit. That's about it." I knew that I was going to be here. I didn't know how, but I knew why. I had to break this thing so many times and know inside my heart that what I was doing was the right thing. When I settled on that and I really knew, there was nothing that could keep me from it. So how it felt to have this happen, to answer your question, is it was validation. This is exactly what we teach in our like-minded community as we collaborate, is that if you just will make a declaration and have intention, you will manifest if you'll create the systems, if you'll back it up. You can't just think about it. You have to put action behind it. But if you'll do that and you'll be resolutely determined, you'll get there. And I was resolutely determined to get here, and so it's not a surprise that I am. It's validation, and the end result of that and what I think people are looking for is happiness, and I'm very happy.
Good. Well, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
I've said this before, but I haven't seen anybody with who has been so determined to make something happen. And I think you have so much sheer willpower and belief in what's going on. And I believe in what you're doing, which is why I've stuck by you all this time. And I love hearing your story, and I want to share your story. But it's really been kind of inspiring to watch somebody just will something to happen, who has gone through some pretty tough stuff and didn't. He's like, and that wasn't even rock bottom for you. I keep saying it was because you're on your way up now, but you were willing to go farther and farther and farther.
Yeah, if there was a deeper bottom, I would be willing to go there. And first of all, I'm honored and thank you for your support, and continue to just really enjoy our friendship. But what I'll tell you, Matt, is that it's real simple, and Troy will say the same thing about himself. I'm a fallible man. Okay, I'm not a perfect man. I don't have all the answers. I don't do everything right. There's one thing I do very, very well, and that a lot of people can't say they do, is that when I decide that I'm going there, I'm going there. And that's the one thing I've had going for me. I haven't had all the right thoughts. I haven't had all the right decisions. I've just had the right intention to make this work. And I've been resolute about it. So despite my inadequacies, despite my fallacies, what I do have that I'm very strong in is belief. I have 100% belief, and that can't be shaken. It truly would have. There isn't anyone on the planet that can shake that for me.
I can see that.
So that's how we go.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you, and I really look forward to seeing what you two can do moving forward.
I'm proud of you and excited for you, and this is a huge benefit not only to myself but to all the people that are impacted by listening, and this wouldn't happen without you, so
well,
thanks so much, Matt.
I appreciate it. All right, Brett, thank
Awesome.
you.
Appreciate you.
Well, there you go. What an incredible story, right? Thank you so much, Brett, for sitting down and spending some of your busy schedule with me. Again, my name is Matt Dietz. This is None of My Business. If you have enjoyed the show, if you've learned some things, please feel free to go to iTunes and write a review, or at least give me some stars. It helps the show move up a little bit so more people can find it and more people can learn. You can find me at www.dietzagency.com. You can find me on Twitter at Dietz Agency. You can even send me an email at mdietz@farmersagent.com. Thank you so much for listening, and keep up the good work.